dum. What's up, everybody? All right. Super cool. Welcome. We got a good video for you today. All right. So today we're going to be talking about more about the impact of aging in particular on the vagus nerve and what aging does to your autonomic nervous system. So, you know, if you weren't freaked out enough that environmental factors and surgeries and drugs could damage your vagus nerve, just the simple process of the clock ticking is hurting your vagus nerve. So we're going to go into that. We're going to cover myelin health. We're going to cover supplementation, different kinds of exercises, practices you can do. There are some substantial things you can do to protect the health of your vagus nerve. So we're going to talk about that today. So thanks so much for joining. But before we get started, we're going to do our simultaneous squeeze, which is a Valsalva squeeze that we like to do before we get started. So how it works is you're going to take a deep breath in. You're going to take an extra sip of air at the top. You're going to hold and squeeze that for 5 seconds, and then you're going to slowly exhale for 5 seconds. Okay? Super simple. It'll make you feel really good. Ready? Breathe in 3, 2, 1. Sip of air. Hold and squeeze. And slowly exhale. Very good. Okay, let's get started. So, as we age, it is obvious that our body undergoes many changes. One area that is significantly affected is going to be your vagus nerve. The vagus nerve, also known as the wandering nerve, is a crucial component of our autonomic nervous system. It is a vital component in regulating many bodily functions, including your heart rate, your digestion, and even your mood. You ever met an old person who's cranky? Seems like they got a stick up their butt. Might not be that they're just born to be an a-hole. They could literally have such a deteriorated vagus nerve that they just act out because they have not only a mental thing going on, but a physiological thing in their vagus nerve, and that's why they're acting out, right? You ever meet a 90-year-old curmudgeon? That's probably what could be happening, actually. It's not what you think. So let's start with the first place. The first place that tends to go in your vagus nerve is the myelin sheath. So your vagus nerve has hundreds of thousands of axons going up and down it. Some of those axons are protected by this thing called a myelin sheath that wraps around it at many different sections, different like chunks. Myelin sheath is important for cellular communication, neural communication between your brain and your body, and the body signals going up into your brain stem. And without myelin, you're basically, for the most part, cutting off signals from your body into your brain. That's really dangerous, and that can lead to dysfunction just by itself. It'd be like if there was a rat eating into the telephone lines in your city, and then you thinking, oh, the internet will be fine, the phone lines will be fine. It's not going to be fine. If something's slowly eating away at the electronics, at the signals, communication lines in a city, in a major city like New York, over time, you're going to see that half of the city can't even make a phone call. And that's similar to what can happen in the vagus nerve. So protecting your myelin sheath is very important. So myelin acts as, typically it's known to be a protective sheath that surrounds and insulates nerve fibers. This allows for efficient transmission of electrical signals. However, with age, the production and maintenance of myelin starts to decline, leading to decreased nerve conduction speed. The speed of conduction is really important here, and potential disruptions in communication between the brain and the body. We'll talk about a few ways that you can help to contribute to myelin health a little bit later in the video. But one other area that absolutely is happening that we're going to be talking about a lot in the coming months is genetic decay. This is the process where when we age, our cells split, our cells reproduce, they duplicate, and every time a cell splits and duplicates itself and replicates itself, you basically see a shortening of the DNA, shortening of the telomere length. You see a lot of this in aging. The older you get, the weaker your DNA gets, and that creates transcription errors, which can lead to tumors and lead to failure of normally what should be functional tissue in the brain. That can lead to deterioration of protein metabolism, can lead to peptide disorders, metabolism disorders, insulin disorders. Lots of things can happen the more your cells have to regenerate. So naturally, you want to have something that's protective of this process. And this is typically going to be in epigenetic changes. One thing that we do know about something like vagus nerve stimulation is that simply stimulating your vagus nerve can spawn tens of thousands of lasting epigenetic changes in your brain and in your body. So things like meditation can cause epigenetic modifications to make you live longer, to make you feel happier, healthier, more energized, more focused. Simple things like meditation can do that. Imagine what vagus nerve stimulation could do, right? And imagine if you're using the right kind of technology to stimulate your vagus nerve, where you can induce even far greater modifications to your epigenetic code to allow you to live longer, freer, happier, and without chronic illness. So this is the potential of keeping your vagus nerve healthy. It does regulate a lot of epigenetic modifications. So that's pretty important. So genetic mutations and alterations will accumulate with age. This will affect the overall function of your cells and your tissues. You ever notice your face gets saggier? Obviously, gravity plays a role, but gravity doesn't explain the full aging process, okay? Genetic decay can directly affect the health and integrity of your vagus nerve, unfortunately. And this can lead to a decline in its effectiveness. And nobody wants that. Nobody here, nobody in this Facebook group, and no person that I've ever encountered who has had their vagus nerve surgically cut by medical mistakes, which can happen. You get a thyroidectomy, a Nissen fundoplication in your stomach. You have one surgeon who's having a bad day, who's a little tired, and the coffee's just not kicking in. They cut your vagus nerve. It's not a good situation. It's definitely not a good situation. So some people are doing the equivalent of cutting their vagus nerve by allowing the aging process to continue on unabated, and the genetic deterioration of their vagus nerve is accumulating. It accumulates over time. So let's talk about what some of the consequences can be practically of vagus nerve deterioration, right? We're not going to be covering surgical modifications of the vagus nerve, right? We don't want to surgically cut the vagus nerve ever. But genetically, if you don't do anything to protect the health of your vagus nerve, what can happen? Well, when the vagus nerve starts to deteriorate, it can have far-reaching consequences throughout the entire body. Think about it. As mentioned earlier, the vagus nerve is responsible for regulating various bodily functions, and various doesn't even begin to tap into how massive the role the vagus nerve plays in your overall day-to-day health. We're talking about blood pressure, heart rate, mood, digestion, metabolism. So much is tied up in the health of your vagus nerve. Once that goes, it's just a matter of time until not only will you start to develop chronic health issues, but it'll be so bad that you'll say, Jesus, please take my wheel. I want off of this planet. It's not good. So when the vagus nerve's health declines, these functions that are crucial for the vagus nerve declines as well. They suffer. For example, things like heart rate variability may become wildly irregular. You typically want to have a heart rate variability that is steady over time, that doesn't fluctuate broadly, right? Even if you're at 30 and you can maintain a 30, that's good. If you see your heart rate variability going 35, 10, 35, 30, 10 every day, that it's the variation of your variability. It's your HRVV score. And a high HRVV score is actually really bad. That's counterindicative of a healthy system. So what else can happen? Digestion can become very irregular, right? You want to develop severe constipation where you can't go to the bathroom for 3 to 5 days. You have to start loading yourself with laxatives, tons of magnesium. That kind of stuff can only take you so far. First and foremost, you don't want to get to that place. You do not want to get to that place at all, ever. And protecting your vagus nerve is, I believe, a key piece of preventing that from happening. And as I mentioned earlier, as we get older and the vagus nerve starts to deteriorate, your mood regulation may also be compromised. And I would argue, look, somebody who has a really good mood and may have constipation, they're probably going to be somewhat pleasant to be around. But someone who has someone who's developed a mood disorder because of vagus nerve dysfunction, because as a result of aging, who isn't constipated, who has normal function, I do not want to be around someone who has developed a severe mood disorder at the age of 85. Okay? Now, I'm a nice, compassionate person, but good, just give me the realistic option. Someone with a neurological mood disorder induced by a dysfunctional vagus nerve, that's going to be a pretty unpleasant experience, socially speaking. So I just say this for your benefit, right? This is a completely hypothetical, theoretical situation. I'm not giving any particular examples of someone that I've met with a mood disorder that I can absolutely say is a result of vagus nerve dysfunction. Well, because of age, I certainly have met a number of people who have vagus nerve dysfunction through surgical accidents. And the fact of the matter is, you guys, their mood is so disjointed, it's difficult to have a conversation. It's really difficult to connect. And they're so in their head that it's like they can't even help themselves in a lot of ways. So it can get pretty scary. That's not good. So these effects overall, these are just a few of them, can significantly impact our overall well-being and quality of life. Absolutely. So what could we incorporate into our daily systems, into our habits to mitigate the effect of aging on the vagus nerve, right? We want to mitigate the damaging effects of aging as it applies to the vagus nerve. So given the importance, and I will say this again and again, the importance of your vagus nerve is paramount. The efforts that you take to protect your vagus nerve are some of the most important decisions you'll ever make in your life. It's a fact, right? No amount of money will ever replace a vagus nerve. There's no amount of prestige or career success that you will ever amount to that will ever, in your mind, overcome what horrific outcomes await you if you deprive your vagus nerve of its rightful place in your health regimen. So Obviously, given it's important in maintaining bodily functions, obviously it's important to incorporate vagus nerve stimulation practices into your care routine as you age. Vagus nerve stimulation is a umbrella term that can refer to techniques and practices that simply aim to activate and strengthen the vagus nerve. Things that activate and strengthen the vagus nerve promote its health and functionality and its longevity. So if you live in a bubble and you're never disturbed and you're never bothered, you're going to be able to be relatively okay. However, it is when your vagus nerve is so impaired that you get so utterly triggered by one mistake or one setback that it sets you back for days, that is an indication of a vagus nerve that does need work for sure, right? So I would call that simply a lack of resilience, a lack of vagal resilience to stand up in the face of setbacks. That's an important detail here. So obviously vagus nerve stimulation, super simple things to do. You could do humming every day, right? If you're feeling a little down, try humming to yourself, humming to some classical music. You can hum to whatever, an Italian cantata if you want. Or you could go as far as stimulating your vagus nerve with some kind of a technology. Now, I recently was on a really fantastic Twitter/X community spaces chat, and one of the academics that was on stage that was speaking, I got the opportunity to ask her after her presentation was done, what are you doing to stimulate your vagus nerve? And she said, well, if I'm stressed out, oftentimes I'll try humming. So she does know about these techniques. But in her mind, she said, for her, it's not preferable to develop a dependence on anything when not needed. And I think that's a relatively strong point to make. However, as we age, I mean, again, keep in mind, this is coming out of the same mouth as someone who just got on stage and says, they're taking like NMN and tons of supplements and all kinds of stuff. It's like, okay, so chemically you're willing to stimulate your vagus nerve, but electrically speaking, you're not willing to do that? Okay. I mean, you do the math on that one, right? A lot of people do nicotine patches to stimulate their vagus nerve, or they take metformin to stimulate their vagus nerve. Vagus nerve stimulation today, especially if you're 50, 60 and up and you're at a high risk factor for developing some kind of a autonomic dysfunction, POTS, dysautonomia, whatever, or an autoimmune condition, if you have anything like that in your family, I said absolutely you need to start evaluating VNS for sure, 100%. And even if you don't end up doing it every day, does it hurt to have it on hand? Does it hurt? When I was going through college, I worked at a summer camp called Internal Drive, or ID Tech camps. And as a requirement of the job, we were made to get licensed in CPR and how to save a life, because we were working with children. I was typically teaching children how to program a computer or program robotics. This is typically my specialization since I have an engineering background. And I went to the same camp at Stanford when I was in high school, and I learned programming at Stanford when I was a child. So I thought, what better way to give back than to be an instructor when I'm in college? And so we didn't learn CPR because we were going to use it every day. But gosh, if one of those kids started choking on something or swallowed water or had a medical emergency, You're dang right I'd like to know what to do. So, given the importance of your vagus nerve, and given, for instance, a corollary example here is, let's say that you somehow caught some kind of a virus, COVID, let's say. Um, I mean, are you aware that the best way to mitigate the cytokine storm damage that is very common in that type of an infection is to immediately stimulate your vagus nerve in that moment, like immediately. So prepare yourself, have it on hand. If you don't use it every day, at least you know how to do it, and at least you have it. So this is the use case for at least having on hand and being trained in how to stimulate your vagus nerve with some technology. Have it on hand, my God, right? Just like you'd have a fire extinguisher in your house, you should have a fire extinguisher for your body. And the fire extinguisher for inflammation is your vagus nerve. It's you stimulating your vagus nerve. And you're probably not going to be humming. Also, I don't really think, given the severity of something like COVID, that I could ever envision a doctor being like, okay, Bob, well, you're about 2 days away from dying. We're going to have to intubate you. We're going to pump you full of steroids. The cytokine storms are ravaging your body. Your lungs are basically not going to recover. Now, before we do anything that's a bigger intervention than anything like that, I'd like to encourage you to start humming. Can we do that, Bob? I know your blood oxygen levels are at about 82%, but let's get you humming, okay? And while you're at it, let's rub some clove oil behind your ear too. Those essential oils, those are really going to kick in. No, this is not going to happen, okay? So as a medical intervention, given what the environment, the realistic, on the ground, realistic environment is today, being proficient in stimulating your vagus nerve with technology is a smart idea. That's as far as I'll go. So some other ways that we can support the long-term health of the vagus nerve, and going back to the myelin sheath, which are really, really crucial for the health of your vagus nerve, is supplementing with omega-3 fatty acids. So that means really high-quality olive oil, really high-quality fish oil in capsules, something of that nature. Omega-3 fatty acids are really, really important. Another one are B vitamins. So take a liquid B complex from Quicksilver Scientific. This thing's amazing. You know, you squirt 5 squirts in your mouth, you hold it in there. You get enough B vitamins for the entire day. You don't have to take it every day. You can take it a couple every other day if you want. But having a B complex on hand, also really a good idea. And likely you want to have methylated B vitamins, right? So that means methylated B12, methylated folic acid, folate. You want to have methylated B vitamins, usually because there's a lot easier to digest in your body. So omega-3 fatty acids and B vitamin complexes have absolutely been shown time and time again to support the health of your vagus nerve. Including these in your daily routine may actually help maintain the health of your vagus nerve. I highly recommend that you're getting olive oil in every day of the week. Absolutely every day of the week. And, you know, there's lots of ways you can follow good diets. Green Mediterranean diets are a good plan. Those are good things. Now, another thing that's absolutely going to be helpful in making you non-dependent on things like a vagus nerve stimulator or on humming is going to be exercise. So that means physical exertion, which has numerous benefits for overall health, which does include stimulation of the vagus nerve. Did you know that exercising your body can actually increase your heart rate variability, which is a telltale sign that by moving your body and exerting your muscles is going to help strengthen your vagus nerve. So exercise should absolutely be a piece of the puzzle. If you aren't exercising, you really either need to get yourself a coach, go buy a weightlifting program potentially, or just buy some kind of a home strength training system. Um, that is a moral imperative that you do start exercising. Absolutely. So engaging like in activities such as yoga, deep breathing exercises, or aerobic workouts, even aquatic aerobic is fantastic. These can help activate and strengthen the vital vagus nerve. And then another one that I think is really underappreciated, which does speak to what I've warned about, which is that if your vagus nerve does go south because of age, and you begin to develop the initial indicators of a mood disorder, because if your vagus nerve starts to falter, you are likely to develop a mood and antisocial personality disorder. It's very common. Okay. I actually just spoke to I spoke to a person who unfortunately caught a COVID infection. This had made them so mentally distraught, their mood was so unstable, that they had been institutionalized, like literally thrown into a mental asylum. Very unfortunate. So while it may seem like the only things I'm recommending are to stimulate your vagus nerve, to supplement with vagus nerve promoter pills, and exercise, I don't believe that that's the end all be all. I also do know that as a prophylactic, as a pre-protective agent against mood disorders, is to be proactive about working on your mood. Don't be sloppy and wait around until your vagus nerve fails so that you develop some basically incurable mood disorder. Be proactive and make it a must to have a gratitude and affirmation process built into your routines. This means create systems, or a single system, around gratitude, positive visualization, not necessarily goal setting, but future vision setting in your mind. Incantations, affirmations, breathing exercises, a lot of the stuff that we do in the Hour of Power audio, for instance, which I give away completely for free to everybody in the Facebook group. I'll put the link here in the chat on Facebook. It's vegushub.com/Hour of Power. Super incredible. Absolutely a win-win of a program. So Hour of Power is like the most powerful prophylactic against developing a mood disorder that can result from aging of the vagus nerve, or a snip, cut, right? Because if we can never predict when we're going to have an invasive surgery, or we're going to have a appendix removed, or some kind of a thyroidectomy because of a tumor, or a schwannoma in your vagus nerve, where they have to cut out parts of your vagus nerve to protect you. We can't predict that, but developing a strong mindset is absolutely going to protect you from that domain of dysfunction of the vagus nerve. So practicing gratitude affirmations or mindfulness exercises can also positively impact the vagus nerve. Research suggests that expressing gratitude and focusing on positive emotions can enhance your vagal tone, which is an indicator of the vagus nerve's health and functioning. So for instance, if you head over to my personal Facebook account here on Facebook, I think one of the most recent posts I made was just a mathematical proof showing how many grandparents you needed to have 12 generations to lead to you. I believe that for you to be alive right now, if you go back to 12 grandparents, there needed to be 2,408 grandmothers and grandparents that all reproduced to be able to bring all of that to you today. That's just 12 generations back. That number starts to get astronomically huge. So imagine how incredibly unlikely it is that you are even here today at all. How unlikely is it that you're even alive to see and experience all that the world has to offer? Now, if you are a counter gratitude, if you are a counter grateful person, meaning a non-grateful person, you'll go, yeah, but the world's not that great, right? Just imagine, what would life be like for you if you could be grateful? What would that look like? What could that look like? What would you think to yourself if you were a grateful person? Might you also go, wow, gosh, I do have a lot to be grateful for. And if I put into perspective the problems that I have today, imagine the problems of 2,048 human beings that all had to reproduce for me to be born. And the accumulation of 2,000 ancestors' problems and desires and failures and everything all culminated in me today. And I can't express an ounce of gratitude for that. If you can't find anything in there to be grateful for, then I'm sorry, but the problem's not me. The problem is them, right? Thank you, TK, and thank you, Sarah, right? How apropos, especially given the, how many people had to be there for us to be born, right? It is a thank you, great perspective and getting some good feedback, reframing. It's definitely a reframe, right? So this is what's on offer for you, right? The better your mind frames are, the less likely you are to succumb to negativity and cynicism. So I definitely recommend gratitude affirmations. If you don't have any such practice, check out that link right there, vegushub.com/hour of power. It is a fantastic resource, literally all built into one 20-minute audio. The reason it's called Hour of Power is because I encourage you to pause the audio and do an exercise, go to the gym, keep on walking if you are there, and continue to reflect on your goals and your systems and your gratitude, right? So you can make it into a full hour if you want. But at most, it takes about 20 minutes to do. And to be honest, I typically do the 20 minutes and my exercise comes later in the day, but it's still empowering for me to do that. So yeah, gratitude affirmations will protect you from the mood disorders that are possible with a damaged and impaired vagus nerve. So absolutely do that. So in conclusion, understanding the impact of aging on the vagus nerve, and more to the point, your vagus nerve, is crucial for maintaining long-term health. As we age, the deterioration of myelin sheath health, genetic decay, neuronal death, and subsequent vagus nerve degeneration can significantly affect various bodily functions and can lead to chronic disorders that show up all at the same time, all at once. Very dangerous situation. So incorporating vagus nerve stimulation techniques, along with supplementation, exercise, and gratitude affirmations like the Hour of Power, we can play a critical role in supporting the health and functionality of the vagus nerve, which can ultimately contribute to overall well-being. I mean that's such a simple thing to say. It doesn't even do what we're talking about justice here, folks. To just say, oh, it's good for your well-being. I mean, this is your eternal. I look really short I gotta fix my camera. I don't want to look so short. Come on. It's an optical illusion, folks. So yeah, anyway, but basically what we're getting at is when I say well-being, it's like such a misnomer to be like, oh, this is just for my well-being, whatever. This is for your eternal life and your soul. Okay? Your life and how you live it determines the quality of everything. It determines the quality of what you leave for your kids, what people feel from you, like everything. It's all in there. So this is life advice, basically. This is health and life advice. So yeah, anyway, but yeah, that concludes today's video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you guys for watching. Not much else to share for YouTube or for Twitter or X, but we'll just stay on Facebook for a few questions if anybody has any. We've had some great viewership numbers. So obviously this is an important subject for many people. So I'm excited to be able to, to at least be able to kind of speak to this stuff. So see you.